All right, we're going to get started here pretty soon. I'm going to go ahead and start the countdown. All right, cool. Go ahead and... Damn, I feel like we talked about half the stuff already. Not even 5%.
Not even.
I mean, of all the videos that you showed me, and the other ones I found, that we'll go over, like your 2018 shotgun video, I found that one. That was good with your whiteboard.
Oh, the actual one with the whiteboard?
Yeah.
That's not even on the channel anymore. Somebody must have uploaded that somewhere.
It was the first one on the...
Because the only shotgun video I have, I know what video you're talking about, but the only shotgun video I have on PlanetSide is that one with the Neanderthal about Hedge. On my channel
I don't think
right
I
now.
watched that one.
It's from 2018. It's the one I mentioned, and I think I linked in the description in one of my lists. But I know what one you're talking about. That one kind of made the points that I made in the other video. But I think that one's from 2018. It's just called On Shotguns. I'm curious where you found the whiteboard.
It was on your channel. It's still there.
No.
Here's why shotguns in PS2 are an idiotic weapon and a dumb choice. It was when you had your BCGs on, so I'm pretty sure you're still in the army.
Those are not. Well, I do own a pair of BCGs.
Do you still have your BCGs?
I do have them. I do have them. But those were these. I think the gunners. I was in Copper's Cove in Texas on that video. But that video is not even on my channel. I deleted that video.
It's somewhere, dude. I linked it. It's in the. Look at the slide. Look at the slide. I linked it.
Where it got out?
Somebody must have restreamed it or something, because it's there. Big old BCGs, dude.
No, I do have the shitty brown BCGs. I did actually wear in basic. There's still the prescription is way the fuck off, but
oh, you had like inserts?
Just well, yeah, I had inserts, but I wore contacts for.
Oh.
But they didn't. I had contacts in basic training, and they didn't know. I just wore them every day, so they didn't know.
Yeah, I went to our version of basic training with a fractured toe, and I didn't tell anyone because I wasn't about to get washed out.
I had 2 torn hip flexors.
I just looked at my bunkmates. I'm like, yo, don't you say a word. I'm not waiting another year for this.
Yeah, I felt sorry for those guys. Like, we would have, at the end, you have basically a whole platoon of broke people, like behind the regular formation with all the crutches.
What did we call them? It was something flight, like not med flight, but they had a weird name. Or
that sounds accurate.
Everyone knew what they were if they went to that flight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, hey everybody, this is StratSide number 8. We've made it 8 StratSides. Covered everything from player outfit wars last year to combined arms, different discussions. Last week or week before it was Zealous, and now this week it's going to be LEX. So today Lex and I are going to start off talking about things like player mindsets and the community divided, kind of rally around the content that Lex has pointed out to me and things that I've just known watching him across the years. And we're just going to see where the conversation goes after that. So, yeah, let's go ahead and jump right into the agenda. We'll go over our legal disclaimer, then go over the scope of the talk. For Lex and I, when we first were talking, and I was kind of watching his reactions to my video with Zealous, it became super obvious that the first thing that I wanted to hammer out with him was the working definitions. Make sure we're working off kind of the same viewpoint, or not viewpoint, the same wording, so that we can don't know, have a common foundation where we jump off into our discussion points there on point 4. Then we wrap up and then kind of go over the usual, here's what's happened, here's what's going on. So the disclaimer, our opinions are our own. Lex speaks for himself, I speak for myself. I don't speak for my outfit, and Lex doesn't, you're not even in outfit anymore, but if you did, you know. And be advised, if you know anything about Lex, even if you know anything about me, there may be some drama-esque things that pop up. There may be some names dropped. My intention isn't to put anyone on blast, except maybe Lex, because he's here voluntarily. But otherwise, it's, you know, we're going to be talking about things which will necessarily involve other people. And that may bring up some controversial content. So just be advised, as we go forth, that we may run across that stuff. And then next, scope of the talk. Here's what this talk is. Lex and I are exploring opposing viewpoints. He leans hard competitive, I lean hard casual. And through that, I endeavor at least to find common ground. I know, Lex, you mentioned that a little while ago. But here's what it isn't. I don't anticipate this is going to be some, like, drag-out argument. I don't expect this to be, and I'm not approaching it as an interrogation. You're not on trial. Some of these things may feel like that because I point out, hey, here's what you said here. What did you mean by that? So there's going to be some that necessarily involved. But the intent is not to put you on the spot to say, hey, let's try and get you. Nah, this is a conversation between two people who've been here in the community for a while. And we just happen to approach things from different points of view. So that's what that is. And next is working definitions, but let's go into the introductions first, because I should have done that first anyways. So introductions. I've been in the community since PlanetSide 2 beta, 2012. Mainly been Dogs, NC Connery. So we're a big outfit doing combined arms, and done some community organizing work along the years. And that's pretty much what I've been doing since then. So Lex, welcome. Go ahead and make introductions.
Hey, most of you probably already know me if you're tuning into this, but I've played the game. I didn't play in the beta, but I played in late 2012 and started playing then. I got involved in sort of like the sweaty tryhard community around 2013, 2014 or so. I had a cup of tea with Dawson Fall and DA. I'm friends with some guys in there. I was in AC for several years. I played, I guess the closest thing as you could call like competitively with them in the 6v6 Farmers League for a couple seasons. And then after that, I transitioned to mainly talking about player mindset, stuff like that, on my YouTube channel. And I haven't really been in, I'm not even really in an outfit now, but I'm less playing with like small groups of friends and stuff. So nothing like super heavy or anything, but
what you call a free agent.
More or less, but not taking offers, I guess, maybe. You know?
Publicly.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Right on, man. Welcome. I've been looking forward to this, as you and I have talked about. It took me a little while to get around to get into a place where I felt like I knew what it is that I wanted to approach it from. And as I started learning and listening to more of your content, it became clear that my initial perceptions didn't match reality as closely as I had thought they did. So that's when I knew, like, really wanted to touch base and have a conversation of our own. So during our, especially your reaction videos to mine with Zealous, it became clear that when you kept saying things like, "Can we define this, please? Can we please get on the same working field here?" I wanted to hit these definitions with you first and foremost to make sure that we have some sort of consensus, so that when we say these words, hardcore competitive, we're coming from it, or at least talking about the same thing. So this all can be done in real time, and as we tweak words or whatever the case may be. So for PlanetSide 2, we're talking about an FPS game with 300-player factions fighting an endless match over rotating continents of bases. I think I may revise that thing like 10 times over the past 8 StratSides, but that's where I am with it right now.
I'm glad you came to the conclusion that it is an FPS game. That's important.
Yes, and I know that you talked about that with Batty, and in that podcast with Leroy, and I think Nept too. So yeah, we'll definitely get to that because I made note. So the PS2 community, players of PlanetSide 2, both who are active within social media platforms. So we're talking like Reddit, Twitter, forums, even though no one really uses them anymore, and then those who log in to play the game itself. So those who aren't even, in voice in game, but maybe over yell chat or just kind of tooling around. That's the community, both the loud voices and the non-existent voices.
How do you manage that?
Not talking at all?
No, how do you manage that community? You would seem to be the guy to ask.
Well, in some ways you do, and in other ways you don't. I mean, there's a certain portion of it where you let it be what it is and has been.
Now that gets to, I wanted to ask you, but we can do it later on, but about the community manager thing, because you had asked me what if I think you'd be good for the job or what you would bring, and then my kind of response to you was, I don't know what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what that means.
Yeah. Well, the good news is that when I applied for the position via LinkedIn, they laid out exactly what they wanted out of that position. It's just a difference in what I'm seeing on the position description versus what I'm seeing.
What actually happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, I don't know if that's a Daybreak RPG thing where that's kind of getting lost in translation, because you know how that goes. You get the description, you get there, and it's like, bam, this isn't even anything like what I thought it would be. There are different rules that, the whole sorts of stuff like that. Different priorities. So it might not even be a CM, thing where I point at him or her and say, you're not doing your job, because I don't know what it's like day to day. I want to one day. So the experience is the gameplay, the behaviors, the culture a player perceives when playing the game and participate in the community. That can be a negative thing, a positive thing because of the mechanics, the server performance, what people are saying over yell chat, what they see on Reddit, the whole experience coming together when you are clicking heads or getting your head clicked, that is the experience. Combined arms. My favorite thing, man, I'm passionate about combined arms, is the integrated use of all styles of gameplay found in PlanetSide 2. And if you've seen StratSide 4 or 5, where I list off what that is, it is the entirety of the game. Everything from the settings to orbital strikes to Lex hates, vehicle players to maxes, even grenades. That is the integrated style, the use of all styles of gameplay in PlanetSide 2. That's what I call combined arms. Hardcore. Outfits with high membership or gameplay expectations. So it doesn't have to be, kill-death ratio. I believe Black Widow Company had an activity expectation. You had to be in the game for an X number of hours every week, if I recall correctly. And that to me is a high membership or gameplay expectation. Or it could be you have to have an IVI score of 1,000 or whatever. Different from competitive. Competitive is outfits and players, in my mind, who prioritize what it takes to win. And that can be, that's intentionally broad and ambiguous. So people who, I don't know, Lex, what would you say is something that is indicative of competitive?
My only issue with that definition is we have to define victory. I think victory needs to be a working definition here.
Okay.
And I think you have to separate out, because like you said, we have the people that are playing in the blobs, right? And what is victory to people that are playing in a blob? Coloring in the map, right? That's one of my favorite things to use, right?
You and I talked about that.
The Crayola coloring book experience. Yeah, well, that's a victory to them. So they might go to a base and die 15 times in a row and never kill anyone. Then it doesn't matter because they took the base. That's a victory to them. So the victory at all costs coloring in the map is certainly a stance that many players in the community take. That's victory. Now, there's a whole nother section of the community here where maybe we're not in a big outfit, maybe we're in a smaller outfit, maybe we're a solo player, maybe we're only playing with a couple other people. Now, we can't necessarily affect the situation on the map necessarily like the large fits that you see on live all the time. So we kind of have to play with the definition of what the victory is. Now, in the grand scheme of things, losing a base, yeah, you lost the base, but I think it came a long, long time ago where when playing like this, we realized that in a lot of situations, yeah, we might be able to go to a base and farm these guys or get a lot of kills and not die and, work on just playing the FPS game. And we lose the base. There's not really much we can do. I mean, we're going to try to take the things that matter on the base, positions, and move around the base and capture points and stuff like that. But there is kind of a cutoff point, like a hard cutoff point, where you can achieve what you want to against the numbers that we face. So you kind of, I guess maybe it's a way of coping, Maybe we do a little bit of coping here where we get what we want out of it, and then we just go to the next base. Because in our minds, it's just like we're in a server browser and in a game that has a server browser. We're just going to the next server, right down the lattice of the road. So you guys get to have your coloring in the map fantasy, and we get to farm the shit out of you guys at the base and feel good about ourselves. And it's this neat little ecosystem. So I think, yeah, you have to... A victory for a player like me probably looks a little bit different than your average run-of-the-mill player in these bigger outfits, and that's mainly due to a lot of it comes down to numbers. There's just some situations that you're not going to overcome, no matter how good you are, no matter how well you aim. You're not going to overcome that, and we came to terms with that a long time ago. So yeah, the definition there has kind of shifted. But there's a problem now with this new iteration of Outfit Wars where you have the people that color in the map. Now they're on equal terms in terms of numbers with the other guys, and they shoot better and do everything else better too. So I think you're seeing these lopsided matches causing this drama that's going on where there's outfits out there that exist that combine both of those things, and that becomes a real problem for the community at large.
What's an example of that?
Right off the top of my head, recursion. Look at the recursion Safari match. You have, on one hand, I don't know a lot about Safari. I'm not very familiar with them. I don't know where they came from. Came out of nowhere, maybe. Not familiar with them, but they seem to me to be a more mil-sim casual-oriented outfit, and they've come up against what is probably the perfect organism. You have a lot of excellent players, really good shooters, really good tactically and technically proficient, if you would like to say. And you combine it all, and you have 48 of those guys against 48 of the other guys, and you saw the result. Kind of a reality check and a wake-up call, I think. And you're going to see more of that.
Would you call that a wake-up call?
Only if the other side is going into it with the expectation that they're going to put up a fight, or they have any expectation of winning, or that they, for some reason, think they have this perception that they're good at the game because of what they do on live, which isn't...
Do you think they really have that perception, though? Because you're talking to a player who would fit in that category. Do you think that I think a lot of...
I don't think you necessarily do it, because you and your outfit, I think, go about it the right way and don't have an ego about it. But a lot of the players that I see in-game, in the Yell chat and all that stuff, and you can get into, well, do they really mean it in Yell chat? Over the years, a lot of these players... I don't know how it is on Connery. I don't play on Connery. Or I haven't played against your outfit. Maybe there's a better atmosphere. Maybe. But there's a lot of fake hype around these people on live that their play style and how they play on live is going to translate over against real competition. I really think they believe that.
Well, what I did notice is when I play on Emerald, there is a lot less organization, a lot less organized play. when the pigs, and case in point, when pigs came over from Connor to Emerald, I was watching the reaction, and it seemed like Emerald wasn't ready for what they threw at him. They were taking bases that I don't think they should have been taking, compared to the level of activity that was going on the map. It just seemed like there was a lot of organized combined arms, whereas before there wasn't. I don't know what it was. I
don't make that distinction because to me, Pigs is just another TR Zerg fit. You know, we had TE or in the earlier days, and then it moved to the Enclave.
Oh, Enclave? Buzzcut, right?
Buzzcut's outfit, yes. You had them, and then you transitioned to AODR, and then you transitioned to Pigs now. So to me, you know, they're all the same. They do the same things on the map. You farm them just the same. They're big outfits with a lot of clueless players that have no idea what kind of game they're playing. They just have a lot of people, and they want to attack. It turns out you have to, if you log into the game and you try to play the lowest pop faction, well, you're always playing VS pretty much because they're always the lowest pop faction on Emerald anyways. So, man, guess who you're always fighting? Always fighting pigs. Because, you know, Mr. Pale Tiger has the thing. He only attacks VS.
Does he?
All the time.
That's funny.
He hates VS, so whatever.
So when I was watching the Safari recursion match, I made a note that recursion won by nearly warp gating, but there was a lot of air dominance. I saw liberators. And then in the after, when Deeg was talking with Safari, he asked him, "Hey, are you guys going to show up again? Like, do you feel demoralized?" And like, "No, we're going to show up again. Like, this is Outfit Wars." And I didn't get from Safari that they took that loss in any sort of manner the way I just heard you describe, that they weren't prepared or they thought that they were going to get victory in an unreasonable.
Well, what's the guy gonna say? Honestly, when you get your ass kicked in a match like that, what is he gonna say?
He could say you cheated. He could say you got an unfair start. He could say a lot of different things that would fit into that mold.
Did you watch, by any chance, the VOD of the perspective from Safari with their voice comms?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Did you?
I did, and that's where I get that from. So I did. Okay. I watched the. Deeg was Deeg streaming?
Yeah, it was Deeg, and
I've watched so many of them. Like
Anna.
So I watched that one, and I watched it, and then later on that night, I went and tried to find. I went back and sorted in Twitch the past broadcasts or recently published, and I was looking for individual outfits, and I was trying to find a Safari VOD of their point of view with comms. If I could, I didn't know if I was going to find. Oh, well, I did find one, and. I will link it to you. Like obviously not gonna be able to watch it now, but
yeah,
it was pretty sobering. I think those guys. They were extremely flustered in comms. Like, I mean, they were getting smashed, and from what I got with their communication, which you wouldn't think it, but like listening to someone's comms and that kind of thing, like you know this, like that's a big indicator of the state of mind of what's going on.
Yeah.
So there's frustration in there. There's panic. There's
all kinds
of yes, yikes. Absolutely. So when I hear that, and then I hear the guy go on the after thing and say and try and do the thing where he's like, "Well, we had 400 or 500 revives." It's like, I mean, cool. You're trying to look for the positives here, but. Like I said, he's the outfit leader, right? What's he gonna say? Well, we don't really want to participate anymore. Like he's got to kind of dress it up, right? But at the same time, it helps to really have the perspective of what you heard, like actually going on in the match. So
that's my take. I got clued in when I listened to Chuck Baller, and they were taking it surprisingly well. I didn't hear a lot of any negativity. Like Chuck kept saying, like, this is a disaster. We're getting annihilated. Like he kept saying that. But other than that, I heard Pale Tiger say, "Hey, we just we didn't do very well. And if this happens again, we're gonna need to do better. Like the sort of things I would hear like a normal person say. We just got our butts whooped.
Yeah, I think there was some of that in there too, where they weren't. I feel like some people didn't even know the end game results, like, or the what would lead to the end game scenario in that, because there were people, I think, trying to move out and capture other bases. Yeah. Right, and their last nexus was getting attacked, and Pale had to be like, if we lose this, we lose the game. And then it's like people didn't even know the rules of the game.
Well, that's the same in our alliance. There were people, even I to an extent, I had to watch the first match to really see what the dynamic was, and then the only indicator I had was Shocktour's QA session with Wrel about the warp gate scenario, and just some of that just wasn't intuitive to me. In the same way that it might have been to you, I think.
Yeah, because on live, I feel like you guys feel like you can move around the map a little bit more and play with that. But in this, like, you're really stuck into that tunnel, that lane where if you can't get out of it, like there's no ejection seat. There's no way to
that's right. And you had predicted this. You had predicted this, and we'll get into that because I made a note of it. So victory for the casuals, coloring in the map. For the competitive, it's farming?
Well, maybe for some people, yeah. For other people, it's self-improvement. So you might be, trying to get better at the game in certain aspects, and maybe you're not farming guys, but maybe you did better than you did last base, or in that session that you played that night, you're gauging how you're improving over time with stats, not just playing for the stats every session. Because I think people confuse playing for stats and self-improvement all the time. Mm-hmm. So like, or there's a lot of people that think that you have to play a specific way to achieve certain stats, but a lot of the really good players out there, they don't really care about, the only stat they might care about in a session is their KPM, how many, and that's usually directly applicable to kills per minute. That's usually, if you're moving around a base killing a lot of people and not dying, you're probably more than likely having a positive impact for your faction at that base. Now there's a cap on that, because you can have 7-8 KPM at a base, and there's just no way you're going to win. Like, think of a tower that has 85% of the enemy faction. You can get 7-8 KPM, but you're not ever getting out of the tower. So hold on.
Why do you say self-improvement as if the casuals don't want to self-improve?
I think they say, well, it depends. I think
you could talk to me specifically. That's fine.
Okay, so if I was asking you, what if, let's say that, like, I started giving you like training sessions in infantry or whatever, or something like that, or you paid for, which I don't do, but
anyway. I paid you as a tutor. Sure.
Right. Let's say that happened.
My shooter tutor.
So if you were going into that, what would you define? How would you define or measure your improvement in that area over time?
That is a great question. I would measure it at first. I would measure it as stats, because I wouldn't know how else to measure it, except for my general emotional feeling, like, hey, I feel like I did better last time than I did last time, or I tab and I see how many kills I got this session or how many certs. That's probably the first opening salvo of, I got 50 certs this time, I got 75 this time, so I must have did something better. And then I can zero in more on, hey, I keep overshooting my AP round over your head at a tower. I need to start ticking down a little bit more, and then when I start getting more headshots, which is hard to do with AP, I guess, but I start getting body shots.
I do it all the time. I feel like every time I get hit by AP, I get headshots. It's like, what?
Well, it's because a one-hit AP round will kill you. I don't think it matters where it hits you. I don't recall there being a hitbox differentiator there.
No, but like, I mean, like the fact that they're even hitting the shot.
Hey, look, I've been honing that skill for over 10 years, okay? So, like you've been honing your craft, I've been honing mine. That's how that works, Lex.
It's just much safer and less risky, right?
It's more fun. I played World of Tanks before this. I played Allegiance. Like, vehicle play is my game. That's what I like to play.
That's funny you say that, because I've often brought up, because you see other people bring up, well, why do you play this? If you're going to play Infantry, why do you play this game and not, X other game, right? And
True.
then I've seen people come back with a retort to like vehicle players like yourself and be like, well, why are you playing this game for the tanks instead of World of Tanks, or what's the air one, War Thunder? Something like,
yeah, I guess.
I think it is.
World of Airships or something.
Something like that. But
Something. I don't know.
I'm curious as to what depth you find, because to me, I haven't played those mainly vehicle games, but I'm under the assumption that when you base an entire game around like that kind of combat, which PlanetSide isn't. To me, the vehicle stuff in PlanetSide always felt like kind of a tacked on mini game. Just I
agree with that.
I felt I wanted to understand from you if you feel like the depth just isn't there with the vehicles in this game when compared to anything else, and why it still draws you in even though the depth isn't there.
Short answer is it draws me in because of the scale and the persistent nature of play. To your first question, there is no equivocating World of Tanks to PlanetSide 2. PlanetSide 2 just has directional armor. So wherever you are when the round hits is where the damage is assessed. Top, left, right, front, back, all that. In World of Tanks, you can hit someone through the viewport and knock out their knock out their binocular guy. You can hit their tracks and stop them from moving. The depth, there's no equal there. But the scale, World of Tanks feels almost like a mini game. You match base in, it's SBMM skill based matchmaking, and you play for your 15 minutes and then you're done. Then you keep on reiterating until you log off. Whereas PlanetSide 2, there's just that chaos of war where at any point in time I can just get carpet bombed by a random air squad, or that's just that level of interconnectedness doesn't exist in another game with vehicles that I found. Battlefield kind of got there. I think it was Battlefield. It was after Bad Company, whatever one came after that one, where they started introducing vehicles, and I could start being in Abrams. But it was so confined to one hex in PlanetSide 2 terms that I was left wanting at the end of each match. So that's how I feel about that.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I don't think I've ever actually like sat down and talked to like a primarily like vehicle player. Like even the guys that I've done interviews with like this, they've never been vehicle players. They're always generally other infantry players. So
yeah, and in the Devil Dogs we'll have different divisions, like people who are only main air, only main vehicles, only main infantry, only main infills, and only main construction. Like we all have our own divisions where we contribute in the way that we want to contribute, and where it's all voluntary, and that's kind of how that works. And other outfits kind of do some similar things, different things, but we like to play the games we like to play, and then we succeed and fail based on our ability to contribute, maximize our contribution as that game style. So for tanks, it's the scale that keeps me coming back. There's just something awesome about seeing 100 players trying to blitz Mao from the watchtower. Is it watchtower? I can't recall the adjoining one.
There is a Mao watchtower up there somewhere.
Yeah, but just seeing like that open stretch, every time we have a battle there, just the other day we did it, before Outfit Wars. We pulled a random Colossus to try and like get us in the groove, and we were trying to die with that thing. We were just blitzing, and we just annihilated their entire front. It was pretty funny. We were trying to die, but we just didn't. The continent got locked. So
yeah, there's something to be said for that playstyle. I think in every way, it's like when you stop caring about dying, it really
it opens up a lot of possibilities.
You'd be surprised, yeah. Because I think a lot of casuals think that we care like a lot about our stats and we care about dying and stuff, but I find like when I'm playing on live and stuff that it's usually all those people that are really concerned about dying, whereas someone like me who doesn't care about dying is I'm free to do more. It feels like I'm freed up to make decisions that people who are afraid of dying are not.
Part of it is they're afraid of you, and I can only speak for some of our players that I've heard. Like when they go up against some really hardcore infantry, like, oh shit, we got to be careful because we're going to lose the objective. And Pepper Null asked in chat, okay, but what's your overarching objective when you get into a tank? My overarching objective is to contribute to the infantry fight, and that's destroying Sunderers. That is suppressing spawn. I know I can appreciate from your perspective how frustrating that is. And in our YouTube chat, you commented that just sucks the life out of the game for you, and I feel like we'll get into that. But I completely understand, and yeah, got it. I
like in terms of like alert play and doing that stuff. Like I get it. Like that's the condition for winning. Like 100%, I get it. But the problem is when that becomes. Well, there's two problems. The first problem is that becomes how every single person plays the game 24 hours a day, 7 days a week around the clock. The second problem is the developer does nothing to address the issue. That's multifaceted. There's directives for killing Sunderers, besides the point where it just can help you achieve an overall victory. When there's a checkbox in a game that has a reward link to it, you bet your sweet ass that everybody in the world, they're playing a free-to-play game, they want a free reward.
What gets measured gets done.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
The fact that we're still trying to perpetrate a giant continental war with school buses that don't really have... It's still frustrating. I think if all the bases in the game had hard spawns for attackers, do you feel like that would take away a lot of your contribution to fighting, or would you just have to switch completely over to fighting other armor and stuff? If we took out the whole Sunderer equation, right, where your job when you're trying to go for victory and stuff is killing Sunderers and suppressing spawns, as you said, what if all the spawns in the game were now hard spawns at bases? What would that do to your experience in playing?
It might return it back to what it was before the spawn system got revamped in 2014-ish, where armor battles was what we did. Like I can remember huge front lines in between Crown and Vanu and Regent, where in order to get to the other side to start capping for our infantry, we had to pave a way. And normally it was just like it was the best time ever in my opinion for armor players, which is when we were battling other armor and you had legit milsim movements to try and break a front so that your gals could get through without getting shot down, so that your infantry could sunder through without getting annihilated, and start capping those points. To me, I would love to get back to that. I think Aflix...
you know what? I would too. I love... That's a cool thing. I want, the interaction between the phases of the game here is at a point now where it really sucks. I want armor players to go out there and want to fight armor players, but I don't see that. Like, to be honest, you see like an outfit here or there that pulls like a tank column and they go try to fight tanks and stuff, but you don't see that. And I don't know if it's a combination of the spawn changes. It probably is the spawn changes that you mentioned, the combined arms initiative, which to me, I think, I'm not even a vehicle player, and the amount of hate that I've heard from that with the amount, like, I'm an infantry player and I would stream a lot back in the day, and you had vehicle players constantly in the chat complaining about that shit. And I think, as far as I know, they've tried to walk back some of that, but I'm 100% with you with that kind of stuff. It's cool to look at, but you know what it does? It puts my armor in between your armor and me when armor wants to fight each other, and makes the play experience way better for me.
Right. I think Aflick mentioned once, I can't remember where he was, but he mentioned that And now everyone's farming infantry. Like the A to G game is strong. I don't run Hesh. I don't really know many armor players who do, but at least running Heat or AP, and half the time I'm shooting infantry. I do not want to be farming infantry. Honest. I don't want to be sitting at a spawn, staring down a heavy assault, waiting for him to peek, because I've got my reaction time down. I will put a round through your face as soon as you pop open. Or jump, or make the mistake of trying to like jump on the top, and I just hit you in midair. I don't always get it, but we've been playing for a while, so I've kind of honed the craft in that regard. And it just feels kind of like the way you describe the way you farm people, where it's just, you feel like it's one-sided in some cases, and I don't like that. I don't want to be doing that, but that's the only way I can really contribute nowadays, because unless you're on Hassan, where the armor game is strong, usually no matter what, or Osher, where there's huge armor columns, then I'm normally dealing against infantry or just Sundays who wish I wasn't there. And I don't know of many armor players who enjoy that over the long term. I haven't heard that. And a lot of Devil Dogs armor players have kind of fizzled out because of that sort of thing has happened. We're running a skeleton crew in most cases.
Yeah, I can never, for the life of me, I can never find armor players who enjoy the interactions with all infantry, and I can't find infantry players that enjoy those interactions with all vehicles. Yep. So, not having that buffer there of, not having that buffer zone there of someone in that phase of the game on your side fighting. I mean, they might be, but they're not pulling the armor to go fight the armor. They're pulling the armor to go kill infantry.
Yeah. So please, if you're Connery, TR, VS, pull armor. I would love to fight you instead of doing like Saturday armor pickups, like on Test or Jaeger or whatever, with like Delta and Zarev, who mad props to them, and Clone as well. So
I can't help but feeling too, like with that, there's like when people fall off in certain play styles, like the armor versus armor play style and all that stuff. I can't help but think there's like kind of some brain drain, like down the road.
Yeah.
Like people forget how to play, certain play styles. Like all the people that used to dogfight.
I think that's happened most with air.
Yeah.
I've heard that the air has like a high skill ceiling, and it's very hard to get there. And when our air team started kind of fizzling out, I see the difference in the play styles now. Whereas before you had like Sky Knights, dueling to the death in the sky, and it was just cool to watch. But
that is the only other, like, I have a hard time watching people that I think I'm better than, like in infantry. It's hard for me, and I'm sure you've experienced it too. Like, if you watch someone, say you're pretty good at something, and you want to watch someone do it, like you kind of want to be like no, do this, that feeling. Air like was always something that was just crazy fascinating to watch. Like I don't remember who I used to watch, but a few of them used to stream, and just going in and watching someone in the air game fight other people air to air was so much fun for me to watch. Like, I would never get into it just because I didn't care about it, and I didn't want to put the time into learning it. But watching that kind of stuff was so cool. And I don't know, maybe there's a couple of EU guys that do it now, but other than that, I just don't see it.
Yeah, I don't see it much on Connery, as much as I used to, at least. But I used to be an air player before I came to PlanetSide. I played Allegiance, which was a space flight sim game, and I was like a heavy assault. I was a high KD player. I played that game for a long time, but it fizzled out, and there was no gravity.
Well, so there's a lot of low KD heavies too.
Yeah, true. But when I tried to come here, and there's gravity, I'm like, I instantly was the worst. So I didn't try. All right, let's get back on to, we left off with competitive, and then we shaped out what victory meant.
I think we were defining self-improvement in between the different, what self-improvement might look like to you and what it might look like to me and stuff. Right. And you laid out your basis for like the very general, like how many certs did I get this session? Well, I can tell you that.
Right. Yeah.
I don't care. Like, I haven't looked at certs and thought anything of it for years.
I was surprising you and Leroy and Batty all said that. How is that true? Why is that true?
Because what we want to do in the game are basically the only thing we're really limited by now is access to implants and ISO. Because everything that we want in terms of weapons and whatever, like, we've played the game so long and have accrued so many certs, and there's just a lot of stuff that we might not buy. Like, I get it from your perspective. Like, I know the vehicle cert stuff takes a long time to cert out. But in comparison, the stuff to be effective, like we are in infantry, isn't all that expensive. Like the some of the suit slots might be later on, but like, you start a new character and you go, one level of resist and get ASC up.
What is ASC?
Advanced shield capacitor.
Oh, okay. So you can't be throwing all these complicated terms at me.
I don't know what ASC is, man. Come on.
I'm an NG player. I play NG.
Okay.
And when I'm not playing NG, guess what I play? Max. Hacksaws specifically. I know, man. I'm everything you talk about.
It's fine. The buy what I'm trying to get to is the buy-in for effective infantry play. I think is a lot less. So and we've been playing for a long time, and we have a lot of certs all the time, because when we log in and play, we're getting a lot of certs. We're killing a lot of people. That's just how it's going. Now, from the other side, I can see if you log into the game and you don't actively do a lot, like you don't get a lot of kills, you're not having a lot of support actions and stuff like that. Yeah, the cert income is a problem. But for players like you talked about, like us, it's not. So you constantly have this big pile of certs that I don't know what to do with. Like, I constantly have all this currency in the game that what the hell do the only currency I currently care about is like ISO on one character, because I want to finish an implant. But other than that, like, I don't care about that currency, because there's nothing I want to buy. There's everything that I'm doing, all my play styles, like my light assault loadout, you have your infiltrator stuff. And you're talking about people that have played the game for 8-9 years on the same characters. I mean, it's different if you make an alt every other day, but this is like, I play 3 main characters for like 9 years. So everything
I was looking at that. I was looking up your stats just to kind of get some gee whiz.
Yeah.
And I got the feeling that I wasn't really looking at one of your characters you've been playing for a while, like your Lex. I won't say it on stream in case you don't want people to find it.
Let me just say what faction and what
Lex VS.
Yeah, that character is like, what, a 2013 character?
Okay, because your infantry accuracy is 34%, 60 days worth of playtime. IVI score is almost 1200, and then I had to look this up. What IVI ACC was, IVI HSR. Your infantry versus infantry score is
the problem.
Headshot ratio is 35%.
The problem with those old accounts too is those that's 9 years of stats.
Yeah,
so, like,
you said so many numbers, it's hard to move the numbers.
It sucks moving the numbers. Like, I could link you to a character I made a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, that all the stats are like, I'm shooting 40-50 on every gun. I'm at 1900 IVI, like stuff like that. But those are stats on my old accounts that I'm never going to move or be able to move, really. The only way you can kind of see like the progressive improvement is if you look at guns that have been released later on, and you can see what I'm using later on. But besides that, yeah, I have those 3 characters because honestly, it would be a huge pain in the ass to get everything again.
But you get them so fast because of your certs per hour.
I mean, I could get it fast, but at the same time, I could also just log into one of those 3 characters and have everything I want already.
That's true.
Right.
That's fair. No, that's fair. All right. So for casuals, we are normally outfits players with few membership and or gameplay expectations, and that's where I wanted to leave it. For the Devil Dogs, you need to be 16 years of age or older and have a working mic. Not a very high bar. We don't look at your stats necessarily. Others, they'll just, it used to be like FREE, free, you should just auto invite everyone they could, and that's why they had 13,000 members. So you know, that's the sort of stuff has just popped up over the ages, and they have varying levels of organization. I talked about that in my Combined Arms one. And then it's kind of legacy that I've imported: small fits, mid fits, and large fits, just for the sake of quantitative. I classify a small fit as 1 to 100 members, a mid fit from 100 to 500, and 500 plus is a large fit to me. And that kind of aligns with the outfit browser, where you can see that picture there in the bottom right.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about the categorizing them by numbers of members. I go more by like, how do you actually play on the map? Because some mid fits behave like large fits, and then others behave like, you know, this much smaller fits. So
let's get into that, because I think we had a lot. I loved already the discussion we've had. Here are the specifics. So Lex gave me some videos that he wanted, that he thought it might be good for me to look at, for me to kind of get a good idea of where he's coming from. Before then, I had seen some things, and I really tuned into you last year when you had your interview with Deeg. And that's when I was like, all right, I had known about you. I had heard some things. Wasn't really all up, wasn't really in your corner, so to speak.
Not a big fan, yeah.
Yeah, wasn't a big fan, just by the small things I heard.
Yours is usually probably the default position. I think 90% of people come in on that side of it, right?
Well,
and then
to be fair, it is easy to come in on that side when you hear the soundbite.
And I 100%, absolutely, I understand it, I get it. Yep.
But also, to be fair, viewers, people, if you take the time to actually listen to what Lex is saying, yes, some of the wording is, to me, unfortunate, but when you peel back that onion, man, you're saying some pretty good stuff. Like Batty said, needs to come to the forefront. The sort of things that I think we need to hear, even if it's said in a way that you might not have chosen the first way. And all that being said, I get why people look at you the way they do. But here's the little bit of that onion peeling back. You can see the slide. If it's a little bit hard, it looks like it is on the stream. So we'll start with this. This might be a little bit better. So starting with in March, when you talked to Deeg chat number 41. Skill Culture in Gaming Boomerism was the title. And the big thing I took away from that is when you mentioned about 11 minutes in that for everything that you've tried to do, if you're not trying to become the best at what it is, if you're not trying to become the best, then you're wasting your time. First of all, it's been over a year. Do you still feel that way?
If you're not trying to do your best, then you're wasting your time.
And that's darn near a quote I should have put there.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna do something, I think you should try to do it to your maximum potential that you have, right? I think you are shortchanging, especially if it's something in a group. Like if you go into a group activity and you're doing something and you're not, this is universal, I think. Not just in games. Like if you're not giving your best or trying to get better at what you're doing to make the end result or the end product something better, then maybe you need to figure out what you're doing. Okay, you need to either focus up and work on that, or maybe find something better to do. Because I feel like everybody individually has a responsibility to contribute that. Now I get some people aren't wired that way. I know many people like that. You probably know many people like that you just don't want to be around, or you don't want to work around because they're not working towards at the same level or the same goal that you are. But yeah, I definitely still feel that way. Why get into something that you're going to spend thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of hours in and not put your best foot forward? Okay? That doesn't make sense to me.
Are you either sympathetic or understanding of people who don't see it that way?
It depends. It depends if you're just a lazy shit and don't really care about anything in your whole like person concept. then I don't really have sympathy for you. But if you're someone who if there's circumstances that always prevent you from doing that, like you're functionally disabled or something like that, I guess you could ask a more specific question, I guess, maybe, that I could answer better. But being very general here, like, I generally don't have sympathy for people who don't put their best foot forward in whatever they're doing.
What do you mean by best foot forward? That might be where the delineation occurs.
I mean, striving to improve at what it is, trying to be. You have to narrow it down, I think, to the specific thing. Like if I log into an FPS game, right? And when I log into the game, I don't know exactly what I want to do, but when I get to the base that I'm at, I know exactly what I want to do. And I know what I need to be working on, what I feel like I need to be working on, what I feel like I need to contribute to the fight, right?
Okay.
And my job, I feel my responsibility to those that are around me, even though I don't know them, they're randoms, my job is to be as competent as possible. And I know in your line of work, competency is a curse, because when you're competent, you get all the work, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I feel like your job is to be as competent as possible for the guy around you, because everyone wants to talk about how excited they are for the social experience and how many people are around them, but they don't feel any responsibility to contribute anything besides being their own little, you kind of have a responsibility to be competent to those around you. So that's really what I'm getting at here, is for the betterment of the entire group, and this gets back to the outfit stuff. Look at all these casual outfits who train God knows what, and then none of them can hit the broadside of a barn, so they need 200 players to take a base from 30 guys. Okay, well, what if you all took the personal responsibility to be even remotely competent? Then you would need less players. Then you could do more with your force around the map, and you wouldn't have to dump your entire platoon. Then when you get into a 48 versus 48, you might actually have 48 players that can hit the broadside of a barn and contribute something to the team. You see where I'm...
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I definitely see where you're coming from. In order for me, to accomplish that, to achieve that, you're talking about time and effort toward a specific mode of improvement that just isn't, in some cases, justifiable. In other cases, call it desirable.
That's fair, but you're going to spend 3 times the amount of time playing the game that I am, and that's what I see all the time. You're going to spend 4 times the amount of time playing the game that I am, and then you can't be asked to do that ever, like at all, like, and then I'm the bad guy for suggesting that.
It's unfortunate that you're painted as a bad guy. Again, I get the perspective of how that came to be.
It's not just towards me. It's that sentiment is looked down upon. That how dare you ask me to spend 1% of my time in this game, maybe trying to be competent at something.
Okay, all right. I have a hot take. So, I don't disagree with what you just said. And when you're dealing with casuals who have X number of, let's say they have a lot of time to play. Even, they get off work, they can play until whatever. Kids, responsibilities just aren't a factor yet. The sort of thing that they would expect to do after having a full day's work or whatever is not conducive toward them drilling, toward them being instructed, to being talked to repetitive motions like Leroy's, when you linked Leroy's aiming guide, all right? I went out and I did that with the Sunder in the VR room, and I got a little bit better after I did that. But I had to drill down and be like, okay, left, right, center, left, right, center, ADS, all that sort of stuff. That repetitive motion, I can see why it's not very appealing.
But that's only the very beginning of it. It's going to be like that. Like when you've done anything new, when you start a new, you're trying to learn a new skill. The very beginning of it is very boring. It can be very tedious, but over time, like you're incorporating those things into it, and it's not going to be Like the mouse video that Cyrious did when he's talking about lowering the general consensus is that you should lower your mouse sensitivity.
Oh, his MOBA mouse that you pointed out?
Yes, you should. You should.
You
lower
said
your
that
mouse
a lot.
sensitivity.
You
Yes.
said that a lot.
That's I've always whatever. Yeah.
You're allowed to.
It's always been a sticking point for like using laser mouse MOBA mice to play FPS games. It's strange to me, and you have no mouse pad. But anyway, back to the original point.
Well, hot take there. 47 minutes in, when you said I have it on here. There's some good things in here, but there's some bizarre stuff.
Yep.
What I noticed, I like data, right? It's a good thing. What I noticed was, on average, every 2 minutes, you would pause the video and say, he's not wrong here, or, yeah, I could see where he's coming from. Like, every 2 minutes, bloop, bop, bloop.
I try to do that. Look, I try to be as fair as possible from when I'm coming from. Yeah, I have a perspective on whoever it is, but if they say something I agree with, there's nothing. Just because I disagree with them somewhere else doesn't mean that. I try to be as honest as possible when I'm dealing with that stuff. So if someone says something that I agree with, what's the harm in, yes, they're right. I don't think there's any harm in that.
There's no harm in it. I'm saying the reverse. Why call him, like, Commander Delirious? Why call him the Shitter Shepherd?
We have a long history, okay?
Okay.
That's a long story. Basically, the man made a 17-minute video based on me being a toxic player promoting a toxic play style in like 2018 or something. So that was kind of.
So it was a hit back.
Kind of the start of it. Yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't gonna. I made our response video to that, and that is probably one of the most popular videos on my channel.
I think I watched that one, but I neglected to put anything up here because of that.
But yeah, like, and I think we're kind of getting off here, but to get onto that point real quick, I think he makes, because I watched all the stuff he did with Shockter and A-Flick and all that stuff, and I mean, yeah, it's okay to agree with people that you don't necessarily like. Now, I'm not saying I don't like the guy. I could care less about the guy as a person, as with everything that, you know how I am on that. I'm trying to address the things that he's saying in terms of those things. So yeah, when I see someone who makes solid points about stuff, granted, a lot of the solid points some of these content creators make are just regurgitated shit that we've heard for years on end, and there's nothing really new there. That they're not adding their own thing to it, right? Like, anybody can make a video talking about how to lower your mouse sensitivity. The stuff that he did on the Windows mouse settings, a lot of people don't do that for whatever reason. I don't know why. It's kind of important. Good on him.
Yeah, it made a big difference when I first did it. I was worse, though, at the beginning, but then I learned.
That's the thing. What I'm getting back to here is the drilling and the stuff like that. That's why I brought up the mouse thing. Because when you lower your sensitivity from something you're not comfortable with, or you're doing that, you're not going to be successful at first. That's just how it is. It's going to be boring. It's going to be tedious. You're not going to do as well. That's what it is. But that goes away over time, and you get used to it. It's the same thing. So I don't like. I think it's interesting that you painted the thing with the aiming, logging in, and I have to drill and drill and drill and drill. Yeah, it might be like that for you at the beginning, but I promise you that it's not like that forever. It probably maybe 100 hours of that. Maybe, and then you get used to it.
Maybe 100 hours?
I mean, yes, but you say maybe 100 hours, but you play 15,000 hours in the game.
That's fair, but how? I guess what I'm hearing is, what my question was going to be: how can you expect a player who doesn't value that sort of level of gameplay to go in and drill? But then, as I'm starting to hear, you expect that because it's not just about you; it's about your contribution to the team effort. And that you have a responsibility that you're not a poor player, is what I'm almost hearing you say.
Yeah. Look, you're part of the team. You're in the military. I've been in the military. You understand that. You played sports. I've played sports.
Yeah.
We get into this situation where you
don't be the liability.
You have a responsibility to those around you to be competent at whatever it is that you're doing. That's all I'm saying. and
expect
it helps people want to play with you. It builds stronger relationships. It's just an overall positive thing. So it gets really grating to me when this is seen and taken in a negative light. I think it's very backwards.
Okay, I see where you're coming from on that one. Do you still expect that, even in a game like this, in a free-to-play fun game? You still expect that level of behavior?
Not from absolutely everyone.
Okay.
If you're the guy that plays half hour a week, probably not. But a lot of the casuals I run into that have real problems with this kind of stuff are people that play a shit ton. They play all the time. And there are people like that that you see in these outfit wars that are going into situations where they have a lot of non-competent players, and it's affecting their ability to do things that they want to do and things they want to achieve, even on live.
Okay. All right.
It's like the thing that I brought up
can't say much about that.
If everyone just actually tried maybe 5% more, maybe you wouldn't need to drop 100 people on 10 guys. Maybe.
All right. I don't have anything to say against that. I get where you're coming from. That makes sense. All right, so let's jump to the second video. PlanetSide 2 year in review. So the first 4-hour video you sent me, it was like 4 hours and 50 seconds. And it was good. I actually really enjoyed listening to this one. And the next one too.
Let's thank Batty for doing the timestamps on that, because
the
timestamps on a video like that it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, they're not fun, but it's good to see the work finished. So I had a lot of notes, but I distilled it down to these 2 bullets, where a 1 hour and 25 is, you had said that the problem is that the mindset, and we were talking about Cyrious. You were talking about Cyrious at the time. The problem is the mindset that Cyrious gives them at 1 hour into the game, and that we're talking about his what to do in the first hour of PlanetSide, what to do in the second hour, how to survive, that sort of thing. You were saying it stays with them 7,000 hours into the game. So you still believe that now?
Absolutely. 100%. The players, they didn't, and it gets back to what we were talking about with basic competency. These people learn how to play the game. Oftentimes they learn how to play the game in the first, they build trust with a content creator like that. He teaches them how to play the game in the first hour of the game. They might evolve and adapt and grow. And by hour 200-300 in the game, that's who they're going to be forever. And they're just happy to be there. They'll never change. And I think you've brought that up, that mindset of why bother to get better. That's who we're talking about here. It's a person, you get to a point, a very average, mediocre point in a lot of cases, and then they're just happy to stay there. If they're happy to stay there, that's fine. But don't argue with me and say that,
that false equivalency you're talking about.
That's not how they're. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I said that false equivalency you and Leroy were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, you can't sit there and say to me that the people, like if I asked you, like, how many hours do you have in the game?
Before they started recording stats, I played every day. I don't know. For as long as
if I looked at your main character now.
All right, let's look.
On Connery.
Let's take a look. Because I have multiple characters, but we can just stick with the Connery one. That's fine.
That's cool.
Let's take a look. I haven't in a while.
I guess the main
some
point
number
of
of thousands.
Say what?
Some number of thousands. The website's still loading for me.
Usually they give it in days, so.
Oh.
You have to do the conversion. Anyway, you don't have to. The point is that oftentimes running into all these people on live, like if I kill 2 guys, what is it?
50 days.
50. That's not that bad.
That's not that bad.
That's not that bad. Oftentimes I'll run into 2 consecutive guys in a row, right? They can be the same battle rank. Doesn't matter. They can both be, like, say they're both battle rank 100. or something like that, right? And I kill them both the exact same way. And I run into these players all night, kill them both the exact same way. And then I look at one of them has, you know, average amount of hours played. And then the other guy, that's the same as the other guy, he has 6,000 hours. But you kill them the same way that you kill someone who has 30 hours in the game. Now, why? This guy has so much more time in the game, but he's essentially the same to me as someone who has 100 hours in the game.
But why is that wrong? What's wrong with that?
I'm not saying it's wrong. What I'm saying is, what I'm pointing to is the mindset that the guy that has 6,000 hours in the game here, there's something weird, because at the point, you shouldn't be the same way as that guy who's 100 hours in the game. You should be, something should be different, right? You should have learned something or do something a little different. When you run the same route and you play the exact same way that someone who has 80 hours in the game does, that indicates to me that there's a problem.
What problem are you seeing there?
That problem is not, you just exist in the game. That's the problem.
Okay. And that's bad because?
That's bad because when you just exist in the game and don't do anything, all your teammates have to deal with you doing nothing.
You're a liability. Okay.
Not only are you a liability, but a lot of these people have opinions on the game and how it's balanced.
Okay. All right. I'm check. I gotcha.
Okay.
I see. They're Reddit warriors. They're, you know, yell chat paladins. It's I gotcha. Okay. It's starting to connect. And also, shout out to Viper, Pepper, and Dubness, having a pretty good discussion in chat right now. So, all right. Not only are you a liability, but you have opinions. Okay. I do want to check at the end. I just had a random wild idea I'd love to get to at the very end. But that I'm starting to see consistency. And that's really what I was gunning for. Is where does that consistent ethos start to play into what you're saying?
Well, that's because it's all based on something. You know, I'm not talking about your last guest who couldn't make up his mind and didn't have an opinion on anything.
No, he did make up his mind.
I say the things I say, and we'll stick to this. And this is shit that you'll hear from me from years ago. Honestly, we'll get to some more of it that maybe I've changed my mind on, but a lot of this stuff comes from the exact same place. And I feel like I've been pretty consistent with what I say for years and years and years, and it's not because I necessarily think it's stuff that I've come to over time with a lot of thought and inner monologue and walk pacing around thinking about this shit like a psychopath.
Yeah. Hey, I feel you on that one. I've had a lot of internal monologue about this stuff too.
But it's because it comes from somewhere, and I constantly get into these arguments with people who, when you press them on this stuff, if you ask them about this shit 2 years from now, they won't even know what you're talking about. Because it's not... I don't know. Go ahead.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. I share a number of things that you just said. And
I want to understand, what other choice do you have? Because when I break it down to you like this, it just makes sense to most people. But they don't, for whatever reason, they have this filter that they don't want to hear it, or they want to argue with it.
Well, some of it's a time thing. Like, do they really want to spend all that time going into the nth degree over a game that they log in and they don't improve on?
It's like basics. It's not like this super nuanced shit. It's like basic mechanics.
It can be, though. That's why you're so much better, is because of how nuanced it is. The gunplay that you talk about, you, Leroy Batty, and everyone else talks about how you're so much better, is because you pay attention to that nuance. How is that not the case, though?
It's really simple. But it doesn't, that's the thing, it doesn't take a lot of effort to understand, like, this stuff is super simple. It really is. Like, I could talk to you and explain it to you for 5 to 10 minutes, and you would be instantly better, and you'd be like, oh, what, holy shit, like, why? And I don't know what that filter is where people can't, I don't know what it is.
It's perception. To me, from what I'm seeing on my side, it's perception. It's this big giant effing iceberg that I don't want to spend the time to figure out. I would rather just log on, get my head clicked, sometimes, repair a generator and be done with it. And that's just kind of where it stands for years on end. And there's just no, from me, I don't think that there is an appreciation for the level, the nuance that goes into the game, to the point where I would want to spend that time to learn it. And I don't necessarily think there's something wrong with that. I mean, because I'm a casual, I've seen the other side. You've got people who have like kids that they're watching, or their own child on their lap as they're playing the game. And, do they really want to spend time doing that while they have a screaming kid that they're watching? Like, no, not really. And that just kind of persists over time, and it's easy to stay in that zone.
Yeah, but that's fine. But why get in prolonged, year-long arguments with me about it? Like,
now that I can't account for.
That's what I don't understand.
I get you on that one. I can't account for that. And what I know I've had some conversation with people like Hebe over the years where it started out really bad, but we ended up, persisting through those conversations. Am I saying this right? Anethual, yeah. Anethual. Like we had a clash in the beginning, and then over time, very recently, we were able to see past that, and I'm very glad, because I think that's cool. We just faced them yesterday in Fate, that we lost to, but those initial clashes, it's almost like a break contact scenario where you get hit and you're like, wow, that was really intense. Let me not visit that again. I'd rather just sit in a comfort zone. And that's where I think a lot of casuals sit. And for us, at least in the Devil Dogs, and I know other outfits have done this, where they have shaped their organization to account for that sort of mindset, that we can then wield it into a weapon that we end up coloring the map with. And I'd say, I'm not saying that necessarily as a counter so much as I get where you're coming from, and what I just said exists to account for the large number of players who don't do that.
Yeah, you're coming from you as a person, and probably it seems like your outfit, you make a lot more effort to reach across the aisle than any of these people do. Way more. So that's very rare that happens. So
how rare is it? Like, not just me, but who else do you talk to from our side, my side?
Anymore? Just the interactions I have in my Twitch chat, or on the YouTube comments with other people, on the Reddit, like on these kind of talks. Like, who even on that side is doing stuff like this?
Usually they're not quite as, I guess, vocal, outspoken.
That's the thing. They don't care enough to do stuff like this.
Uh-oh. I hit the wrong button. Shoot.
Did you hang up?
No, I didn't hang up. Not again. But I did hit the wrong... There we go. Okay, we're back in action.
Oh god, I'm on two screens.
I know. It was the low-hanging fruit. No, this is good, man. This is good. This is, to me, is what I wanted to get after. This sort of disparity that I've seen, and then how do they coexist? Are they in conflict? Do they need to be in conflict? Back to what you're saying. I cut you off.
No, I think we can coexist. I just think there's no, like I mentioned to you, I've mentioned in one of my last videos, and then I mentioned to you in our comment. Like, I have been a casual. I've been where you are. I've been there. I played the game like that.
Oh my god! I have a comment on that for later.
I played the game that way. The difference is that I just went on to do something else. So I understand. Like, I've been married, had fucking shit to do and stuff like that. Like, I totally agree. I understand that perspective. I do. But you don't get to have the conversations with... I don't think those people approach these conversations in good faith. I just don't. Because there's nothing that they say. Like, I'm totally willing to have my mind changed on this stuff. 100%.
You are.
I absolutely. Yes, absolutely. But at the same time, there's a high bar for getting over bullshit, because a lot of it is bullshit. And I'm not going to sit here and listen to bullshit from people who I know are full of shit. because I've been in that position and played the game the way that they have and came to where I am now. I have played both sides of the perspective.
So what makes you think they haven't played both sides of the perspective? That's
because I know they're not good players. They've never became anything other. It gets back to the Cyrious comment. They're the same player they are at 7,000 hours that they are at 300 hours. They've never went anywhere in the game and done anything. They've never, besides just logging in and existing in the game. That's all they've done. They're stagnated completely the entire time they play the game. Not saying that's a bad thing. If you want to play that way, that's fine. But don't tell people like me that we're on the same side of the coin or that I have a misunderstanding of perspective, because that's disingenuous 100% in my opinion.
So I'm interested to know. I think this kind of ties into the false equivalency that you were saying. So never mind the fact that I grew up in the 360 no-scope era, where I think Leroy and I might have been in some of the same circles, like in UT and all that jazz. But in any case, I was probably 10 times better at first-person shooter than I have ever been in my life. And I've just been on a slow decline ever since then. I still remember what it was like, but even that aside, where you and Batty and Leroy talked about the false equivalency, and there was one thing that you brought up that just it got to me a little bit that I want to ask you about here. You said that you could do everything a vehicle player could do, right?
Yeah, okay. 100%. Do you know why?
So my follow-up, can you do it right now as you are, or do you need practice to be who I am?
It depends what you ask me to do, but I'll tell you why I say that. I'll tell you why I say that is because the skill ceiling and the skill floor are not even remotely comparable to what you do as an infantry player.
All right, I'll yield that to you, but my question still stands.
Yeah, would I be able to log in and do? Well, it depends. What would you ask me to log in and do as a vehicle player right now?
If I wanted you to log in and engage an armor column to take Howling Point from Mao, you think you can do that?
Maybe, sure. I don't know.
All right, well, let's get more specific.
Why
if I were to challenge you right now to a 1v1 on Jaeger, do you need time to prepare, or can you just walk in right now and do what I do? You've got like a 40% IVI headshot.
Are you talking on Jaeger with infantry?
No. You and I main battle tank each other 1v1. Can you be me without any practice?
I could probably be 80 to 90% of what you are. Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So best out of 3, best out of 5, best out of 10, you'd think you'd have a reasonable shot at beating me?
Yeah, and it has nothing to do with me or you as players. It has everything to do with the skill ceiling and the skill floor of vehicle play.
Well, your original point, though, was that there was a false equivalency, and that's what I'm pulling at. For you to say there's a false equivalency...
Yes, the false equivalency, that's the thing you're getting back to, okay? Let's say the scale of infantry play is 0 to 100, okay? And let's say every little notch is somewhere on that scale. To say that the vehicle play, to say that driving around in a tank and playing tanks in the game is on the same scale of 0 to 100 with things, all that stuff, I don't buy it. It's not. I'm sorry if that offends people. It's not the same. And I would even say that you could put air-to-air on that too. Driving around in a tank on Araxis is not even remotely the same thing as playing infantry at a high level in this game. It's just not even close.
What does that mean? I'm having a hard time nailing down exactly what you're saying.
Okay, so if you compare, let's compare a high-skill infantry player in infantry playing that comes into a base, all right? I've done this recently on my stream where I go through the stream of consciousness of everything that I'm thinking and doing in that base I've done this for a half an hour at a time, okay? And it's just on and 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 on. Now, you're going to tell me that you're going to take a Vanguard or a tank and you're going to drive it out down a roadway and sit there and shoot at each other out in the middle of an open field, that's even remotely similar to what I'm doing, moving around the base inside, taking multiple engagements, gunfight after gunfight, accounting for every single person. Yeah, I get there's people that you have to account for in terms of other vehicles and aircraft, but you don't have the movement ability that I have to think about. because you're in a vehicle. You are very limited. Now, tell me if I'm wrong. You're very limited in your mobility.
No, I think you're very wrong, Lex.
Oh, am I? So
I think so.
You can move the same way in an infantry engagement that I can, where I have to fight against light assault and invisible people and be on the radar the whole time. You can move your tank with the same fluidity that I do in an infantry combat engagement, because
I mean, I can't strafe left or right.
You can't move left or right, but you have the same movement ability as I do.
I don't even know what that means, Lex. I'm in a vehicle. I'm going to be different than you, but I'm moving very fast.
That's right. You have way less options to use. So therefore, the ceiling
I can move way faster than you.
The ceiling that which you can do in that vehicle is much lower. And that's how it is.
I'm very curious, because I don't think you have a full appreciation of the utter nuance that goes into being a vehicle player.
Cool. I think you say that, and you don't understand that you're not representative of the vehicle players that I play against every day. You, I think, sir, are above that. Let me just say that. I think you're probably a great armor player, but you don't represent. And maybe in my case too, I don't represent the average infantry player too. That's probably fair to say.
All right.
That's probably fair to say.
I think that's fair to say. Yeah.
That's fair to say. Yes. But the average vehicle player that I encounter and the average infantry player, I think, are two very different things.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair.
Maybe let me get to the average thing, and we take out. I think you're a good armor player. You think I'm a good infantry player. Let's wipe that out and take the average. I think that's the more fair thing to do. Yeah.
I think, though, when you describe infantry play, and I've listened to your infantry videos, talk about the nuance of movement, positioning, angling, all that stuff I've heard you say. That's the same stuff I do in a vehicle. That's the same stuff that we teach in vehicle play. And when you're not dealing with a vehicle Zerg, like you're not dealing with an infantry Zerg, it's easy to feel like you're a god in a tank. And it's it's a very fast scenario where that gets turned on your head and you get made a fool of when you don't think about the C4 or the mines.
I just think you have fewer options.
I don't know what that means, because I can get my tanks in some very, very hard to get places. I can move very fast. I can be on your spawn point. Not as quick as you can redeploy, but it won't be very long before I'm staring down at you at my gun barrel, or I've found a way to figure out where you're going to intersect, and I just put a round right through you. When you say options, I account for the less redeploy side that I have. I account for the less how big I am.
I'm not even talking about moving around the map. I'm not talking in a meta.
But what do you say? What do you mean options?
I'm talking about in an engagement, like not moving around the map or anything. Like when you're actively in a battlefield, in a fight with people. I think
in armor battles, it is almost like World of Tanks. To me, it's more than World of Tanks in an armor battle. Whereas in World of Tanks, you have the nuance of where am I going to hit? Can I track? Can I outmaneuver? Can I flank? All of that is in PlanetSide 2, and you have the added stacks, the theater of war of, do I have a C4 ferry about to drop on me? Where is A to G coming from? Orbitals. Oh my gosh, orbitals can just be placed anywhere now. So now you just don't group up anymore. You kind of fan out echelon left or right and kind of do your thing there so that you're less of a combined target. It's just the amount of complexity, the variables that go into an armor battle, to me, is massive. And I can't say that I represent your viewpoint, so I don't know everything. But I have listened to you and Leroy talk about aiming guides and some other stuff that I've heard from people. It doesn't sound dissimilar.
So, but let me ask you this then, since we talked about this earlier. Where are these armor battles that are supposedly happening?
Not supposedly, they are happening. So they happen
because I don't see people pulling armor to fight armor. I think that's an over-idealized version of the game that doesn't exist anymore.
I play the game all the time, and I'm constantly engaged in armor battles.
I mean, you play on a server that plays the game like WDS never ended. Am I wrong? I mean,
but I can say the same thing about Emerald, where they compensate with the sheer quantity. You guys blow us out of the water when it comes to population. So whenever I jump on my Emerald TR and I want to, have a Prowler itch that I need to scratch, I see armor all the time.
Yeah, but they're hardly ever fighting each other.
Well, that kind of goes back to what I was saying about the way the redeploy side works now and how you're incentivized really to spawn,
Yeah, but
suppress.
do you know why people redeploy around the map?
No, I don't. Why?
Because the open field fights are fucking cancer. That's why.
What does that mean?
That means that they're massively unenjoyable for the majority of the players. Adapted over time. We were all playing the game back in the day when it first came out, and they had a huge population. Everybody was foot zerging everywhere. Cool.
Yeah.
Those fights. Do you know what those fights would be now?
No, I don't.
Do you know what they became? It's 900 guys with semi-autos or bolt-action rifles. It's 100 tanks left clicking in your general direction. It's absolute cancer. It's no cover out in the open, air to ground, nothing. That's why people redeploy, because it's fast and you don't have to go through a bunch of cancer to get to where you want to play the game. If there was no redeploy, this game would die almost instantly, because it would be the most the game is already miserable as shit. Let's not mince words with that. If you took redeploy out of the game and you forced it into this cringe logistics garbage that all these players constantly bring up, the game would be dead tomorrow. Because no one wants to play that. Especially, you have the people that are left. It's time to leave big systems like that, maybe alone. Because you take redeploy out of the game, almost everyone I know is not playing the game anymore. I mean, you want to go back to the Galaxy thing, and you don't want to change. And this is not just the player's problem. This is the game developer's problem with not addressing anything that wrong with the game ever.
I think that's a very interesting thing, because I feel like the way you just described that makes me believe that I over-idealized the initial years of the game, where we did have those tank lines.
We all thought it was awesome. Cool. I was right there. I was in a Zerg fit running across the fields with a TMG 50. Wait,
which one were you in?
I was in the Enclave on Emerald or
you were in TE? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Everybody was in TE. But we were all there. Like, the people that did play then, we have, and that was cool. Like that, but that changes over time, because you get into that and then you keep doing that, and then one day you're out in that field getting killed by air to ground and tanks and shit. You're like, what the hell am I doing? Like, this isn't fun. Like, everything gets, and this is, I know Deeg has talked about this, but everything, the efficiency of everything, like when you have a long-standing game, everything gets like maximized in terms of efficiency. And at some point you just get to the point where this is fucking stupid running across this field. I'm just going to redeploy. Like, that's a natural progression of a player base.
That's interesting. I don't think I've ever thought about it that way before. Because I'm on the other end saying, this is awesome. Let's do more of this. And then suddenly, like, oh, the fights are gone. Now I have to fight at a base, and I'm farming infantry.
But that's what I'm telling you. That's why that stuff went away. Because
the
people like me were like, this is cancer. I don't want to do this.
All right. I'm going to have to rethink that. But I need to take a quick 30-minute break.
Quick 30 minutes? Okay. I got
30-second break. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
All right. We'll be right back here in a short jiff.
You need a new drink? having me.
Yeah. All right. So we're back. Got the water now.
That's water.
Okay.
Promise.
Yeah. Water. So what were we saying? We're talking about equivalency. I was talking. Oh, I over-idealized.
Yeah, I made the point about the open field fights and the logistics and the over-idealizing, and we played the game that way and then evolved and then.
Yep. And now we are where we are because of that. Okay. Cool. So, man, that blows my mind. I'm gonna have to sit down and think about that and where my thoughts were then and how I thought it was just the coolest thing that I wish I could get back all the time. But I can appreciate how that wasn't very fun for you.
No, I mean, I'm with you. Like, it was a cool thing and it was a cool experience that it's hard to experience in any other ways. I'm there 100%. That's the appeal to the game. But at some point, I've always said the spectacle of the numbers and the scale gradually wears off. And where do you go from there?
Okay. That's fair. Well, you go to construction. That's where you go.
Please don't. Please don't.
Would it piss you off if I also said that I'm also construction main?
Can we move on?
I bought that bundle and I have loved it. I think it's awesome. We figured out how to put a glaive through your face inside of a base. It's an exploit. We've tried reporting it. It's not good. We're not doing that. But we figured out how to override the no deploy with a glaive. And
why is construction in this game?
Because we needed an in-between all the hard spawns everywhere. Like, how else? Just driving from one stretch to another, the armor battles don't happen anymore. Now you have sandbox. That's what that is.
It's a kitty litter box.
It is, but it's still a box that you can play around in and enjoy another level of gameplay.
I'll just never.
I know you don't. I know you don't agree on this. I know you don't.
No. Construction was one of the biggest wastes of time and blunders that this game has ever had. So I'm never
really
gonna get
the worst one.
100%. Absolutely. Well, in terms of when it came, the amount of time that was pushed into that, just at a time when that's just not what the game needed at all. Like, what are we talking? End of 2014, 2015, when this stuff started happening. Like, there's just so many other things that you could have worked on or done that were not this. And to this day, it's like, it's just, yeah, I'll never understand.
All right. So transitioning back to one of the videos, you said 2 hours and a half in. There are some people who are so stupid they shouldn't be allowed to speak. Globally muted.
True.
And to me, when you said that immediately raised a red flag in my mind. Whereas you've spoken many times about how you don't feel that, like the cancel culture and the kind of doing, man, I'm starting to lose my words when I drink too much Moscato. That's my bad.
I get what you're saying though. Like a super authoritarian.
Yes, it sounds counterintuitive. Tell me what I'm missing there.
I think that's probably one of the things I said when I'm like in the moment with them. And just trying to get a rise out of it, like to make everything clear. I'm not on the right at all. I'm like very slightly left-leaning libertarian. So like globally muting people and the cancel culture and the censorship, I'm not for that. But like in terms of that conversation, like on specific subjects, which is probably what we're probably talking about a very specific subject there. I don't know if we're talking about.
They're talking about toxic players. I believe that was what Batty was talking about with Nep. Not that one wasn't with Nep. That was with Shock Tour, I think, at the time. They were talking about toxic players and how they contributed or didn't to the community.
That's not something, because generally I'm in favor of toxic players talking, so I don't feel like I would have said that about. I don't feel like I would have said that.
I had to go back and check it, but I'm pretty sure 221 in, Batty was talking about Shock Tour being a streamer who came out of the woodworks and got partner in less than 1 year. Leroy talked about raising money for charity. Then you said, I don't have any preface for this. There are some people who are so stupid they shouldn't be allowed to speak. Oh, you were talking about Stu360.
Oh yeah, 100.
That's who you were talking about.
Yeah, he's beyond Beyond, he needs to be incarcerated.
So why is it okay for him to be who he is, globally muted, but not you or not Zealous and not anyone else?
Because we can sit here and tell him exactly why he's wrong, and it can explain to everybody else why he's wrong, and he can't do that for us. So,
okay. Well, in that hot take where you're not as behind it as you may have been, or are you still behind it? You still think he should be globally muted?
Stu360?
Sure. I don't know the guy. I don't have no idea who he is.
If anyone will agree with me that knows that guy, yeah, he should not be. But I mean, he's so irrelevant that it's kind of like being globally muted. So maybe I don't have to do anything. So
yikes. Okay. All right. So you think in that particular instance that is the exception to the rule?
I mean, at the
I'm not trying to get you.
I know. In specific cases, if we're talking specifically in PlanetSide 2, when it comes to very specific topics, there are some people that have demonstrated Stu360 is a day one player, and there's been a lot of run-ins with Stu360 with all the elite fits and everything. Could constantly deal with this guy. So there's a long history there, and he's said a lot of stupid, inane things for like basically a decade now. So on this one topic and this subject, when it comes to Stu360, globally muted.
Okay. Like your level of stupid, or you're talking like my level of stupid?
No. He's just you would have to get the full context that you'd have to know the guy, and you'd have to like it's more. But anybody, trust me, anybody who knows Stu360 that's in the chat knows this guy is.
Okay. So there's an exception there then that you think applies there. That's fine. I think that's pretty reasonable. Even if I don't know the guy, I have no idea who he is.
Yeah.
So then, 8 January. That's when you have your podcast with Leroy, Omninept, Batty. I really enjoyed that one too.
That was a really fun one to do.
Even though it was like 5 hours long, dude.
Yeah, like I knew of Omni and their team in Battlefield and what they did, but I had never talked to Nept. But he's just a cool older guy. He's super chill. It's just. Yeah,
he was a PS1 player, from what I understand, and now he's like professional.
Yeah, and then he made the mistake of thinking that PS1 has anything to do with PS2, and then we just went from there.
Yeah, y'all talked about everything. You talked about revive grenades, and you were trying to bring Nept up to speed about what PS2 was nowadays, and how he just revive grenades blew his mind. And I think there might be some agreement with that on at least my side and yours, that revive grenade seems like the easy button in some cases. When I'm able to get it off as a random medic, try and help the team. But I can see why that's very frustrating to see why is that there? Why are we doing this? It's just like a reset button that just takes less time. But also you can kill me randomly because I don't see where you are when you respawn.
It's not necessarily it's a multitude of things. It's the time. It's a press whatever your keybind is for teamwork button that I'm not a big fan of the single presses for teamwork. I don't like that. The risk is, what's the risk? I think revives are even too fast the way they are with the medical applicator. I think there's very little risk involved with it combined with the implants that you have in the game.
Just with outfit wars, you have to be pretty close to revive. I get shot down.
Well, I'm not talking about the range. With grenades, I think that gives you the range. Like with the medical applicator, I was talking about the time.
It takes me like 0.5 seconds to revive somebody, but I'm pretty exposed. I can't shoot. I can't even look at anyone else. Well, there is a way to do that, but we're talking PlanetSide glitch.
It depends.
Yeah.
It depends. Like I had this conversation yesterday where the Safari guy was gloating about how many revives his team had. They had like almost 500 revives and they got smashed like 1,000. Like they got smashed. I don't know if you saw the match or not against Recursion, but
yeah, I saw the match.
I went watching the B-Way and the VKTZ match. Like to compare, let's say
that was a close one.
That was very good. I enjoyed that. I think VKTZ could have won that, and I'm not sure. I think people are painting VKTZ as a full ringer outfit, but to be fair, it's only 39% of their roster in that match was ringers.
And to be fair, I think a lot of casual players don't care how many ringers were in there.
I don't think they do. I don't think an outfit like B-Way cares, because B-Way is B-Way, and they're going to do their thing, and they don't care who they play against. They're going to find a way to win anyway. I think you might see more crying when it's against someone who has a full outfit of their own players, who's not quite as good, or doesn't have the gunners that either one of the outfits have.
Like Pigs and Gobs, maybe? But we didn't see that. I didn't see the crying from Pigs afterwards. They took the loss up across the chin. I think you should give them that. Because I was listening to Chuck Baller.
Well, I was the one saying the whole time with the Zealous stuff that it wasn't going to affect them, right? I was the one saying that they're not going to burn out. They're just going to play, and they're just going to go back to live. Yeah, that's true. You did say that. You did. But it's still like the first week, though. We don't know what's going to happen after this. Yeah, and like I said, SKL beat 1TR last night. And what did I say? There's going to be teams that no one expects to win, that show up, they're underdogs, and they go out and have a pretty convincing win. Yeah. And where would you be if you were just going to take your ball and go home? And to Zealous's credit, he showed up and his team played the match, and they played the full thing and didn't troll at all. So we'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah, he did say he reversed his position on that, and I give him credit for it.
Absolutely. If that,
despite the circumstances,
drop a huge L take, retract all your videos because you don't like the negative outlash, and then
he didn't retract all of them. He didn't retract all of them.
Two of them that specifically I linked in my original response to him were gone.
Yeah.
But yeah,
okay, that's fair.
Rehabilitate the take, man.
But he had said the reason why he retracted them is because he no longer believed exactly what he had said.
Yeah, but why? And
you cannot appreciate that. But I still think that stands for what it is. It's no longer there.
Cool. I'm just split on why does he no longer believe what he said? What's the real reason behind it? So, yeah, I mean, if he shows up every week and shuts up and does the thing and plays the games and acts like a responsible outfit leader and doesn't act like a child, then cool, fine. I have no problem.
All right. That's fair. I'll leave it there then. Hey, man, like the more I talk to you, I get where you're coming from. I still think it's, I've heard Wrel mention you but not mention you, and I get it. I get where he's coming from, that he doesn't want to deal with you in that regard. But then I listen to you and I hear what you're peeling back, and you make good points, even if I think that...
Yeah, but there's some people like him that are not ready to deal with the good points.
Well, if you're talking about him specifically, it doesn't sound like he has a lot of time to devote to non-essential functions, so to speak.
I would hope not, because your game is a mess. So I would hope that you don't have time for that. But
well, like you even mentioned though in one of your videos, I can remember that you had acknowledged that some of these things had been in existence that predated him.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. There's some stuff that you can't get around without redesigning and having a third game. Yeah. There's just core fundamental stuff that, he walked in. Remember, but people forget that the man has been pretty much in charge for 5 years now.
Yeah.
I mean, more or less. When did he start putting the lead game designer tag on his thing on the streams? Because that's what I go by. I don't know the official stuff, but he's not. Well, we've had some time here, man. Like,
in a moment of full transparency, the more I delved into EG7 and the more I delved into Day Bearings, because I did some StratSides on that.
I've seen those,
right?
So yeah.
So when I delved into that, it became much more ambiguous as to who held the reins on game design, on executive production. Like, it wasn't just Andy calling the shots. You're talking about a company that had many different, like, multivariant decision-making structures. I don't think that you can put all of that at their feet. I don't even think you can put half of it.
You want all the credit for the hits? You want to circle the hits and ignore the misses?
When does he say, hey, give me all the credit for the hits?
Have you read any of the patch notes from the self-fillating paragraphs about how we've done so much and fixed the foundations of the game? I think we had 3 patches in a row at the end of last year coming into this year that the last paragraph of the patch is full-on self-fellatio, talking about how we've dealt with the problems in the game over the last year. Remember how last year was supposed to repair the broken foundation of the game?
Well, maybe they thought that's exactly what it would do, and then...
Well, that's exactly the problem.
What? Wait. What is exactly the problem?
That's
Go ahead.
exactly the problem. You think you're fixing the things that are wrong with the game, but you fundamentally don't understand what's wrong with the game. So then when you fundamentally don't understand the problem, how can you provide a solution? That's
Can
all
you
I'm
say
saying.
that about a game about PlanetSide? Like the chaos of war is so. It's
Yeah, well, we just hide behind the chaos.
no,
of
it's
war.
not
We
hiding.
hide
It's not
behind the
hiding.
back of the box experience, and we don't deal with the problems.
Okay,
It's like an addict.
I want to get
making
past that part
excuses.
because it doesn't sound like making excuses to me. It sounds like acknowledging that this is not
every problem I bring up. You can hide behind the sandbox or the
Sure.
MMO, or every single one you can do that to.
Sure, I agree with you. You can do that, but it doesn't seem to me that that is what is being done. Like he's making efforts toward things, even if it sets them back, or in your opinion or anyone else's opinion, doesn't fix what it proposes to fix. So you're still talking about, though, hours put in to try and improve something. The patch releases with this intention, and then F it, all the players come in and just, FedEx drops mines all over the place for the late shift. Like, how can you stop that from happening? How?
You have a clear and concise vision on what the problems are for your
All right.
game.
You and I will agree on that. I think I've said that multiple times in like my community management videos. Like, there needs to be a very clear vision about what this is. It needs to be articulated. It needs to be communicated. And then you can start to set expectations. I think you and I agree on that point. Even if that isn't present, though, Wrel still has to put in his 40 hours a week or more. So does Andy Seitz when he was here. You're talking about people who are trying to deal with things in the reality of now, even if they don't have all the guidance that they would expect to have. But you're saying, from what I hear, is that that's not enough.
I'm not saying that's not enough. I'm saying that the dealing with the actual problems the game has haven't even been attempted. That's what I'm saying.
What's the number one thing you think hasn't been attempted?
Balancing anything for scale ever anywhere.
What does that mean?
I mean, nothing in this game is balanced for scale at all, period. End of story. Nothing. Give me an example of something that's balanced for scale in your mind. Now, I guess we have to get into
the galaxy.
Okay, how many you can have? Well, what do you mean? The vehicle itself?
I could say the same thing to you. What do you mean? Like, I can drive a galaxy. I can go to the point. I can high altitude. I can just like circle
I'm talking
around.
about common sense shit when it comes to, okay, this game works. Let's take this game is Smedley likes Battlefield 3. Let's just that's what the game is. All right.
I like Smedley, FYI, but go ahead.
I don't mind the guy. Cool, entrepreneur, great.
He was very involved.
Great. I think he did great stuff. You know, all the people that hate that OMFG happened, guess what?
Sure.
The game really needed that. Sorry, if you want to play the game, you got to be able to run it. And since none of you want to pay money to upgrade your PCs or do anything with them ever, then we got to do this. Sorry. Now, do I disagree with the fact that they couldn't do balance adjustments or tweaking numbers during that time? Absolutely not. I think that's stupid, and they never should have done it that way. But cool. But we wouldn't have the game that we all love if it weren't for that man who really loved Battlefield. So he tried to get in on it. Anyway, Battlefield 64, I'm ignoring 2042 because 128 players, when they were announcing that, we were like, all the people who played PlanetSide were like, you're stupid, don't do it.
Yeah,
it's impossible.
You know what you're getting into when you do that.
Sacrifice everything to put numbers of people on the screen.
I think you and I agree on that. But what? Tell me what you meant. Tell me what you meant.
To get into a specific. Okay, let's say you have a game with 64 players, right? Now, does it make much sense to you? Do you think it's cool that they're 32 player teams, right? I'm not even going to get into the no team balancing, population, fake balance mechanic horseshit. I'm not even going to get into that because that's a whole nother thing.
Sure.
Just individual, what a person can bring to the battlefield in a game that has no limits on players. Okay. Do you think it's cool that you could potentially be fighting 150 players that each have 4 grenades each in a base that's nothing but choke points?
Grenade bandolier?
Sure. Or how about being able to continually revive people by pressing G on your keyboard or whatever?
With
four of those. Grenade Bandolier, perfect example of something that is poorly balanced for scale, right?
Or instead of poorly balanced, over exaggeratedly balanced for scale. Because if you're talking about having 4 grenade bandoliers, you're talking about the application of that in multiple scenarios to where that scale is present in the game. Like, you're going to have multiple engagements where you take this building, then the L-shaped, then the triple stack, blah blah blah, and each time you might need a revive grenade. Whereas if you're in Call of Duty, you might only need 1 before you die. That's what I'm seeing.
How about the fact that none of these bases realistically support more than 24 to 30 players?
I cannot speak to that because that is not my field of expertise, and I would rather stay silent because I have not spent much time to understand how that works. I mean,
like, surely you've been in a base with a shit ton of people.
Many times have I been in a base, but I have not spent time to understand game design and base development. So I'll take your word for it. But I can't have an intelligent conversation where I speak from authority.
Because they copied and pasted the time to kill values and the bullet to kill values from Bad Company 2. They just they moved the decimal. That's what they did. And you know how many players are in that game? It's a console-only game with 24 players.
I would be lying if I said I understood what you just said.
Okay, so the way they did the weapons in the game and how much damage they do, the damage models that equate to math out how many bullets it takes to kill an individual player, that was stolen out of a game made for 24 players, 12 on each team on console. Now,
that's bad?
Well, would it not give you pause to now put 96 versus 96 with those same values? Do you think that would work out the same? Because there's probably a reason that those values were used for the 12v12, right?
I guess if I said, hey, if you give me the data points from a 12v12 and then give me the data points from a 48v48 or like 128v128 and the values were very different from each other, that would give me pause. But I don't have the industry expertise to know what that even means.
That's fair.
That's my limit. That's my limit as a casual.
What I'm getting at here is that this game is a lot of mess thrown onto the screen at you for the sake of mess. And I would really, really, really appreciate it if someone that is working on the game and running it would try to address any of the problems.
I think they're trying to address the problems. Right?
I don't think that. What are they? Well, I mean, clue me in, because I'm curious. Well, what are they trying to do?
The latest patch, didn't they... Gosh, man, I don't even remember what they did. I'm a casual dude. I don't even read all of the patch notes. But when I do, I read that there's a Corsair now.
Of course. Of course.
Well, and you're starting to reach the limits of my knowledge. And I delve as far as I can, but I don't delve that far.
That's nothing personal, but that's the limit you reach when you're trying to have these conversations. That's why these conversations are so hard, because you're like, there's some people that I know are even more autistic than me about like patch notes and values and data on weapons and stuff like that. And then you're taking that and you're trying to go have a conversation with someone who barely reads the patch notes or something like that, right? It's like, speak English, Doc,
Okay. I don't disagree with you on that. Point taken.
No, and yeah,
there's a disparity when it comes to...
That's a bridge. That's a gap that is extremely hard to cover, and it takes time. And, you can't make a 9-minute video talking about a thing like that.
You can. And it's been done. It's just a matter of when you react, that 9-minute video becomes like a 30-minute video.
No, I mean, like, what do you say? Like, you're trying to bridge a gap in that amount of time, man. Like, that's so hard to do. And I'll tell you that the people that are doing that are not succeeding. I'll tell you that much. Because there's a lot of stuff. Like, I can't make a 10-minute video telling you how to aim. I just can't. Like, no matter... I can't do it.
But it was done, though. It was done. And if we're talking about Cyrious, right? It was 20 minutes.
No, that's
15?
not what that did. That is a very surface level first day Jimmy casuals first day playing mouse and keyboard on PC. That's what that. I'll tell you, that's what that is.
But where did he say that was anything but that? Where did he say it was an advanced guide?
That's what I'm saying. And it's not. There's not a thing where it's like that's the thing. It's beginner and advanced, and his advanced stuff is like. What am I supposed to do with? I need an advanced guide to tell me how to play heavy assault, to use a rocket launcher on a vehicle. Like this is the problem. Like there's not. You're not teaching. You're teaching people how to nominally do things in the game. You're not teaching people how to understand what they're doing. There's no attempt at making a deeper understanding of what's going on, so you can apply that. It's just here. Look what I did. Here now you do that. You've seen that kind of training in the military. It's bullshit. Sure. And you don't respect that. So why do you respect it why would you respect it in a game?
Because the average player and this is a later comment that we that I bring up is his audience is not your audience. And you even know that because I thought I heard you say that.
Absolutely. But guess what? When you have one of the largest audiences in the game, you might bear a little responsibility.
And you know what? I absolutely know that Cyrious bears the responsibility and is aware of the responsibility that he bears.
Yeah, he talks about it all the time when he moral grandstands on shit.
What do you mean he just articulates where it is that he is in this ladder. He knows that he's the one that people will go to because of the content he pushes out, just like Kami does.
Yeah, but Kami had made a big change in the last year and a half or so. He's not on that train anymore. Do you follow his content?
Yeah, I do, and I watched his details in a rant.
Have you... I'm not talking about that video specifically. I'm talking about the videos that he's done in the last year or so. Have you noticed a change in what he's talking about and how he's behaving? Because that guy has done a 180. Okay,
tell me. What is it?
I mean, he's addressing actual problems with the game now.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Then he released one like 24 hours ago, right? He said his one gripe with PlanetSide 2, and he talked about that at length. And I thought that was a little bit of a departure from what I've heard before. And I liked it.
Yeah, he used to be, he was the run-of-the-mill generic, here's a weapon loadout video and give you updates on the patch and stuff, but...
Like very room temperature, anyone can watch it. That's what Cyrious is as well. And to me, there wasn't anything wrong with that.
Well, what's wrong with it is when you are consistently and repeatedly wrong on a particular subject and you continue to push those subjects. So like when Cyrious talks about skill, when he made that video about me and didn't know anything about me or the players that play like me, and he wants to preach to 30,000+ people that follow him, do you know how many of these people that you have to deal with now that are being told shit that is just not true and it is just fictitious and lies? It's not, he didn't go out... Well, I mean, he did slander me pretty hard in the video, but the majority of that video was trying to make the point that he tried to make the point, like he approached it where there's a specific kind of player that plays heavy assault that only fights shitters on live and they farm their stats up and all this stuff, and they would never want to take the challenge on or anything. And he's talking about me, who specifically signed up to play competitively against the best players in the game.
I did watch that. I watched your reaction to that.
And then to go with that, and then continue to hold the mindset years down the road that there's people logging into the game that have a magical map filter that tells them where low BR players are at all times and specifically hunting them.
I saw that. And I think you and I might overlap on that.
That's the stuff I'm talking about. There's a lot of stuff that he says that I agree with. That's cool. But there's always going to be that edge down there with that stuff where I don't want to hear this fucking guy talk about skill. I don't. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
It sounds like he's talking on a different level, though, than you. Because if you were to talk, I've listened to your videos. And
because I have the pedigree to talk about it when it comes to the game.
Yeah, but you don't have the vocabulary. If I were to listen to you, and when I do listen to you, how can you tell me that a beginner level that Cyrious' audience listens to can extract the same stuff that I do? How can you say that?
I'm not saying that they do. I'm just saying you have a responsibility, if you're going to be a huge content creator for the game, to not consistently be wrong on something that you're obviously wrong on. And when you've been corrected on it, you don't ever correct that sentiment. That's my problem.
Okay, so it was the video where he blasted you, and he probably shouldn't have, or parts of that were pretty unfair. Like, you don't just go to fights to
I think I had this conversation with Deeg on his podcast about it, right?
Yeah.
That's fine. And to be honest, that video is we're getting like 4 years on now. But it wouldn't bother me so much. And this is the thing with the guy too. He came around, he was going on the Afflick stuff and talking with Shockter and all that stuff. And I came around on him like about a year and a half ago, a year ago. It was like, cool. I came around a lot. I'm like, okay, he's changed, I think, what he's saying here. Or he wasn't outright saying stuff anymore. He wasn't saying the things that he used to say. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, cool. Maybe he's changed his mind. You know, maybe he's adapted or updated his takes on stuff, because what else do you have to do? Because they're completely wrong. And now you're back to this video that he put out a few weeks ago. It's okay. The defending the Zealous thing and coming out against people who were decrying what he was saying. Like, now great, you're back to square one.
The competitiveness.
Right, and he's talking about competitive again. And it's like, why? You don't know what you're talking about.
Well, because one of the other biggest creators came out and said, I disagree with this. And Cyrious came out and said, here's my stance on it. Like, just that it landed on the other side.
But like, the conversation that me and you were having is, the guy doesn't know what he's talking about and should stop talking about it. He can make the videos, but I'm telling you, no, why do people listen to him? Because he has a big audience. And when people talk...
you're glossing over a pretty important fact. Why does he have a big audience? What is his appeal? He has a big audience
because he makes guides for new players and shitters. That's why he has a big audience.
Which is okay, right? That's allowed.
It's perfectly fine. We need people to do that, and he does a good job of that. But what you can't do is be the 6th grader teaching the 5th grader how to tie his shoes, and then go and tell the high schooler what he needs to be doing. That's not how that works.
I can understand from your perspective, where you're in the college or graduate degree level, looking down and say, hey, you're a 6th grader. I don't know. It seems to me like whatever grade that he is in versus everyone else, he is a grade above them, and he is a place where they can obtain. Like, if they were to look at you to obtain a graduate degree from 4th grade, that's not reasonable. They can't attain that. You can if you're like have a really talented person like Leroy, where he joined in 2018, and he just picked it up real fast.
But when you put 7,000 hours in the grade and you're still in 4th grade, listen to the 5th grader because you've been held back 8 years. What are we doing?
Well, isn't that allowed? Aren't they allowed to do that?
It's allowed, but it doesn't look good. Have you ever met any of those people?
Yeah. I play with these people. What do you mean? I'm a casual. I play with these people. You're talking about me, and that's okay. We're allowed to do that. But...
Well, I was more specifically talking about potentially, what are you, you're 9 when you're in 4th grade? I'm potentially talking about a 16-year-old in 4th grade. That's what
I get it. And there are those people too.
Like actually visualizing that.
Okay, got it. Hey, this is awesome. We're coming up on 2 hours though. Do you want to do a part 2? I feel like if we kept going, we're going to be in here for 4 hours.
I'm good to go. If we need to do a part 2, I don't know when that'd be, but my schedule.
I mean, we could schedule like next week or something. Like, it wouldn't be very long.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me. Like, I'm open whenever. I'm cool. Like, it doesn't matter.
Let's go ahead and do that, because I feel like 2 hours is a good chunk where I can think about it. I can see where I might have over exaggerated. Like, just come back and have a refresh take. Because right now we're on podcast with Leroy, you, Batty, and Omninept. And I think if we were to come back and reattack that one again, it'd be another good conversation.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Whenever. I'm perfectly fine. Like,
all right. I'll DM you. It won't be very long. If I can get it next week or the week after, I have some work trips coming up, but we're going to do this again very soon. So I think this was good, dude. I really appreciated talking with you about these sort of things.
No, it's fun, and it's something I enjoy doing. Like, when I wake up this morning, I'm not dreading like going to talk about the game or something. Like, you know, I'm not. I was dreading when my internet wasn't turned on when I came home. I was worried about that. But other than that, yeah, I have fun talking about it. I really do, and it's fun to talk with people who care. And I know you care, and you do a great job with the formatting. And I think you really want to reach across the aisle and have the conversation. And I really appreciate that, because there's people that are just not doing that. And I want to say thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate you, and I would like other people, you know, Chuck, huge shout out, man. I know, you know, you're pigs, so people might have an idea of what that means, but you've been a good force for this community, and for everybody else, just like reach across the aisle. I didn't even know Lex that well until I just messaged him, and at first that tension was there because those perspectives, we didn't know each other very well. I felt like you and I clashed a little bit in the very beginning, but then if you just persist through it, you know, we're having the conversation that we are now. So I appreciate what you said, and likewise, I look forward to part 2. So we'll be in touch for sure.
Cool, man. Thanks.
All right, everybody, we're gonna go ahead and transition out. Be looking for part 2 because we had a lot. We had a lot to say in this one, so we'll get to the discussion points later on, and we'll just start the countdown. Yeah, right on. All right, have a good day.